Welcome to SME SOS. It is the life raft which we've built to help small businesses going through difficult times. And as you all know, it was launched back in March 2020. I'd never ever done a live before. I remember I was sitting in my rather high polo neck, which I'd never even owned a polo neck, not a good look for me. And I sat there drinking a cup of tea thinking, well, I was consumed with what the holly&co was going to do. And there I was thinking, I just need to be there for the community. And that was 2 years ago, it was almost to the day on Wednesday when I started up. So SME SOS is this life raft, I hope, for you small businesses. Also just a time, if we work alone, to have a huddle, to have a group meeting just before our day. Well, it sort of has already started. If you're like me, we've done a good 3-4 hours already, but it's maybe a little levensies. It's a little time to have a cup of tea and a biscuit. The thing I'm going to ask you today and what we're going to be dealing with, we're going to be having a community lowdown. We're inviting 3 incredible guests to join us today to talk about what they're going through, because ultimately, you know, I can talk and I will give you my experience, and we're going to bring on experts, but hearing from your fellow founders, hearing from people who are going through exactly the same as you and what they're doing about it is so helpful. And I don't know about you, yesterday with Will and Rebecca, I was really noting all the things that they were talking about. They must have given away 20 tips of how they're approaching things. So make sure you have your notepad, your pen, your paper, your chocolate digestive and your cup of tea. We're going to be inviting Liz Harry, who's a designer and illustrator. She took over Holly&co's workshop, if you remember. Emma Giacalone, who's an embroider artist, stitcher, positivity creator and all-time genius. And Samantha Trinder, a new friend of mine who owns an amazing yoga establishment called Bhuti, and the incredible Bingham Riverhouse, which is a gorgeous hotel in Richmond. And these 3 people will have 3 different perspectives on things, hence why we're having a community lowdown, and we're going to share that with you. So the thing I'm going to ask everybody right now is, can you invite a friend? If every single person here, and by the way, don't think, oh, I'll let someone else do it. Every single person, please, in comments, at someone that you know, maybe WhatsApp them, whatever it is, please go and ask them to join, because ultimately the more people are joining, the more they're going to be commenting, the more we're going to be a community and learn from each other, and the more that this message spreads, because there are a lot of people out there who are going through a lot of difficult times and they're alone and they feel alone, and yet here we are coming together. And because we're on this social media network, that there's no capacity, right? The more the merrier. So please, if you can, at someone you know the heartbreaking DMs I'm getting at the moment, and it is real. We're talking about people worrying about feeding their children. We're talking about people worried about whether they're going to have to make the entire business redundant. These people, they are really, really requiring this help, requiring this energy that all of us bring. So please, if you can, I can see you're all doing it right now. Just one person. Bless you all for doing it. I'm literally watching you all right now, atting people. Please, if you haven't done it, let's do it together. So we are going to talk about basically how, I think one of the big subjects I want to talk about is how people are using social media at the moment, what we're finding. I did a post today with my boxing gloves on, did a bit of boxing this morning, and I must say I was boxing Instagram's face. If there had been like a sort of logo on those boxing pads, it was Instagram. I'm utterly pissed off with what's going on. I'm pissed off, that we've all slightly built our businesses on Instagram, which is actually such a bad business idea and a bad way of dealing with business. We're all putting our eggs into one basket. But also, I'm just absolutely annoyed with the fact we're coming out of a pandemic, we've got a war on, and they're changing the algorithm, and it's affecting so many people. And I'm also going to talk to everybody now about what levers they are pulling in their businesses. So yesterday Rebecca was talking so eloquently about the fact that she was hustling. She was going out there and selling her business. She was finding out she does amazing bespoke biscuits and incredible. I mean, if you haven't checked out Honeywell Biscuits Co., it is an incredible business. And she's going out there, picking up the phone, calling schools, saying, hey, you know, when everybody comes on board, would you like some personalised biscuits? You know, going to corporates, all these sorts of things. And I'm sure lots of you took notes with what she was saying. She made lots of other great points. Check out yesterday's SME SOS. It's on the IGTV library, so you're never going to miss these. I'm so happy you are all atting people. Honestly, that makes me want to cry. This is what this community is about, and this is why we're different to anybody else. We are a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so lots of, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on 5, 7, 8 minutes on reflections of this week. So I've already told you that, you know, Instagram is having an effect on every single business, including my own, right? So there was this point where every Monday morning I have a huddle with my team, and I decided that we needed to rip things up and change things up. And I could have spent ages debating it. And I'm not saying debating as in I was putting an iron fist down about what I wanted. But there is a time, and it's something that I'm learning as a business leader. And also lovely Frank's made me a nice cup of tea. And he's made it in a blue mug because I'm wearing blue. There he is. Thank you, Frank. I'm sure Andy Peters had somebody with white gloves. Do you remember? He had someone in the broom cupboard with white gloves. Anyway, you know, as leaders, as business owners, sometimes there is time to take people with you, and always we should take people with you. But then there are times where you, the business owner, needs to basically go with their gut feeling and lead by example. And I think sometimes what can happen, and certainly for me, you know, I have such an amazing team that I sort of took a slight back seat where I allowed the team to be magnificent as they are. But we hit a few hurdles. And rather than stepping right in quickly, I slightly kept my distance a little bit. And actually what it needed is me to come forward. And I think you need to remember that. There are absolutely, and also, by the way, when you come forward, we're not talking in an Alan Sugar disgusting way. We're talking about coming forward in a female leader way, which is always full of empathy, creativity and optimism, isn't it? So I came forward but knew that I needed just to take the reins a bit here and lead us into pastures new, safer grounds. And that's what I did. And it showed me, that we are still chameleons. However we grow, we can absolutely change with the times. I think, you know, you have to remember that if you become too big, if you become too packed, I always call it like it blocks your arteries. It blocks a business arteries to be able to move quickly, to be able to do things nimbly, to be able to address issues that are coming up, or be able to move with the times and culture and change. So do remember that, even though we are absolutely obsessed with how many people we employ, or not us, people that ask us, how many people do you employ? What's your turnover? Do also remember that the smaller you are, the smarter you are, the better. But also remember what I say is that you cannot do this alone. So it is about building a team, but making sure that the team is absolutely required and it's not a nice to have. And also, I've banned the word busy. That's right, I've banned the word busy in our offices. Busy is now no longer a word in Holly&Co. Because what I notice that we do, and in our lives, we're obsessed and almost maybe addicted to saying how busy we are. Everyone, anyone I speak to, they sort of look at me, and no doubt I am running around and everything. How annoying for people. But they look at me and they go, oh, you're so busy, you know, and I go to the office and people say, I know you're so busy. And then And I'm like, I'm going to be busy all my life, but I love my life. And so what it is we are using the word packed. Now we have taken busy is out, packed is in. So we're now, whenever we go to say we're busy, we say, I'm really packed. And the idea there is we want to say that we are entrepreneurs. There is no day that we're not going to be packed. And if you sign up to work in an entrepreneurial business, that is what's going to happen. So these are the things you need to drop, the things that are not moving the ship forward, and you need to prioritize the things that are important. But packed is a better word than busy. Busy is continuous if you're in an entrepreneurial business. And we also had a lovely moment where we took the team out, and it was the first time in, well, definitely over 2 years that we had gone out. We went to a lovely e-brief at Macy's. They were an independent award nominee, incredible business that basically employs people that need a leg up to get on the housing ladder or to gain employment. They offer 200 hours of free employment, and then free employment so that they can learn the trade, and then they help them get a job in hospitality, which then allows them to hopefully get permanent accommodation, coming off benefits and shelter and into their own places. An amazing company. We had the best food, lots of wine, laughter, and every single person in my team, they don't know this, but each one would now and again come to me during the night and would say, don't we have the best team? Like, I absolutely love who we work with. Like, this is the best night. I actually prefer it to being with my friends. I mean, I can't tell you. Look, I've got shivers even saying that to you. Woo, we are lucky, guys. You, the community, me, we're lucky to have that group. Right, look at this. So many hellos. And then we're going to come to our 3 guests. Lots of people saying hello, lots of people tagging people. So anyone who's just joining me, please tag someone else who needs to hear this advice and inspiration. Early Burden 16, yes, I agree. Get rid of busy. Your agency, love this. Hate when people continually talk about how busy they are. Calm lettering, looking forward to this. Unit Dawn Shop, morning Holly, you've inspired me to get going on wholesale. That's what we were speaking about yesterday, wasn't it? Might be a pivot I need right now. Caroline Marnie, these team talks have really given me inspiration to get over this big bump in the road and keep going. I'm so happy to hear that. Nicole's Jungle, after yesterday's session, I'm now on Pinterest. Woo! I need a Holly and Co team. I need some sort of SME SOS. I think it would be a ship bell, seeing as we've got this whole nautical life raft and life ring theme going on. I think I need an SME SOS bell for when people do something. Holes, can you be on that? Hearts and Stars by Marty Claire. I'm a business, me, myself, and I. I think so many people here. And Shoes, being an indie leader is an enabler to innovation. We are masters of progression. Fantastic. And I just want to let you know, people joining today, we are talking to 3 great businesses. We're having our first ever community lowdown, which is we're going to ask people, Liz Harry, Emma Giacalone and Samantha Trinder, all about what they're going through in their businesses right now, how they're using social media, what's working, what's not, what they're ditching after lockdown. Because lots of us adopted things, didn't we, that we don't want to actually continue, but we don't know if it's right to ditch it. What would we swap it out with? So here we go. Let's join these magnificent people. Here we are. So invite you, invite, and one other here. I'm wondering, hello. Hi, I'm coming. I can't see you right now. I'm wondering Samantha, here we are. I'm just going to join Samantha. Here we are. Samantha, I don't know why I'm doing the da-das, but I've never had so many on one live. There we go. Invite. There we go. Hi, guys. Hi. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me. Right, so I know if I say to my right, but it's all different for everybody else. So I'm just going to say, Emma, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Emma Giacalone, and I am an embroidery artist, and I make stitch together nice threads and nice words.
Yeah, I mean, And it's pretty epic. I mean, you make it sound as if it's like just a few things. I mean, it's basically works of art stitched that you can't even believe is actually stitched.
Yeah.
Liz, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Liz and I'm a colour lover and I'm a letterer, designer, illustrator, and I mainly design accessories to wear and also the odd bits for your home as well.
Oh, brilliant. And Samantha?
Hi, I'm a yoga teacher and yoga therapist. I have a wellness centre in Richmond called Bhuti, and I also co-own and run a members club / hotel and restaurant, also in Richmond as well.
And this is how I met Samantha. I was lucky enough to do a breakfast talk at the hotel on International Women's Day. Thank you for joining me, everyone. This is our first sort of community sort of lowdown where I really just wanted to, I think we all learn from each other and things are tough out there right now. And I just wanted to understand if we could both have a couple of minutes, just if we're able to be as vulnerable as possible about how we're feeling at the moment. Emma, shall I start with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling quite good at the moment, actually. I think probably if you'd asked me maybe this time last year or even sort of, throughout last year, I didn't feel that way. But I think that kind of, I noticed basically throughout the pandemic, when lockdown hit, I think I kind of got into the mindset that I just had to say yes to everything, and through thinking it was going to be 2 weeks of doing that, 2 months, and then it turned into 2 years. And I think the process of doing that and just kind of saying yes and going with everything that came meant that I became much less selective about what I was doing. I kind of sailed off path a little bit, and so I really kind of had sort of to do it with self-examining last year and thinking, well, am I still doing what I love? Am I still doing what I want to do? Have I got that passion for doing it? And I didn't really. So it was really about going back to basics last year and kind of thinking about how I had to kind of regroup, get back on track. And I guess now I'm kind of lucky in as much as I started doing that, and then all the kind of Instagram issues had hit, and that sort of luckily for me tied in with what I was wanting to do going forwards anyway. So yeah, it's quite scary doing something away from what I was doing before, because I felt in my comfort zone. I knew what I was doing, I knew how to post and interact with people and everything else, and it's starting again from scratch almost, but it isn't. It's just, you know, embracing that change and doing
that change. And I'm going to come to you about what that change is in a moment. Liz, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think really similar in the past 2 years, you know, there's been this steep incline towards a really kind of frantic way of living, even though we've been at home, and there's been lots that has been reduced. Running a business from home and having quite a decent sized, a large sized family, my life felt very frantic. And I think even though I took some rest at the beginning of the year, it wasn't enough restoration, I think, for the time that we're having right now. And I think I had to step back, like Emma, myself, and kind of return to what I was examining at the start of the year. And is that what I still want to go ahead with? Is it still being responsive in a way that isn't too reactionary? Because I think I came into the year and I was like, okay, so I need to do this and I need to do that, and I could tell that I was still rushing without kind of taking my time and really processing basically the way I wanted to move ahead in such an uncertain kind of year. I think as well, I was expecting this really I was expecting things to be easier this year, I think. You know, after the past two, and I think it's obviously not you know, it's not met my expectations of what I thought this year was going to be. And so I think coming into that and still being quite low energy, I think I've really just pulled back this last month, and I've if I'm totally honest, I've taken the last 2 weeks off the most time off work I think that I've
Right.
had off in a long time. I am now feeling a bit better, I think, to kind of move ahead, and I am feeling a bit clearer. Obviously, it's really, really uncertain right now, but I think I've kind of explored a lot that I can do that I'm not currently doing. So I'm feeling a bit more confident
Oh,
about
that's so good
how I
to
can
hear.
address things.
So good to hear. And Samantha, what about yourself? You're in a different type of industry, but how have things been?
Well, up and down, like how you've both shared. There was obviously a period where we were closed, and I think you shared as well the first time of not working or going to work for about 20 years for me. For Bhuti, which is in the wellness industry, so we do yoga classes, gym and everything. That's been going month by month, not knowing what the hell is going to happen next month, because obviously, even though we came out of lockdown, we were still in a partial lockdown for much of last year. So we had a busy month, and then no one would come, and I thought things would be much more back to how they were pre-COVID by now, which they're not. But for someone like, and I'd really want to say thank you to you, Holly, because your talk at the International Women's Day and these SME SOSs that you're sharing are so comforting, because you think everyone else is fine. Everyone else has got it together. Their businesses are flourishing. And it's so, so it's reassuring to know that not everyone, but many of us are going through this uncertainty. And you use the word pivot and so on, but it is keeping trying to offer what your consumer wants, or coming up with things that they don't know they want yet, because we can't really, the world isn't the same, especially in our industry, and we can't do the same things as we were pre-COVID.
In
So
2019.
So we're trying to come up with slightly new offerings. We'll come on to that later. But so because I'm always a sort of, optimistic, glass half full kind of person, and when you left the message about doing this, I think you said something like, sometimes we feel like we want to throw in the towel, and I was in one of those moments when I was thinking, frig, shall I just give up, because this is like, and then you weren't invited. I was like, and it's, life is like that. You have ups and downs.
Life is like that. And you need to listen to, if you can, Samantha, on Wednesday, we had Coach Kate on, who I've introduced you to, and she was talking about, giving up to do what, almost like our, in a way, the journey we would have to do to get to a grass is greener situation is such a freaking long one. I'm exhausted before I even think about it. And then when you're there, you might look back and go, oh my God, I had it. I had the most control over my life. I think one of the things that we're all feeling as well is, and this is going to be on my mind, and I'm doing a number of other things that I will share at some point, which is about our reliance on social media. And I think that the pace, so, actually, where would we have been without social media during these 2 lockdowns? What are we doing right now, being together? We couldn't all get together in X amount of hours doing this. So there is absolutely a place. But I think I'm like, I built my business on Instagram. I feel a bit stupid, because actually what's going on is the muscles, and we do work other muscles, but I feel like I have let my vision down by relying too heavily on one vehicle. And let's face it, what else is there? And that's what I'm working on, by the way, behind the scenes, so everyone knows this, because lots of people are going, what do you do without social, right? So I could go outside with a little placard, and ask little passers buyers, but it's not very efficient of my time. So I am, just community, working on some really, really exciting stuff about what do we do, what muscles do we work outside of Instagram. So Emma, back to you. How is social media feeling at the moment for you?
I think, obviously everyone's feeling the same thing, in terms of, I'm the same as you. Like, I've built where I am now through my Instagram posts, and so I think I think lots of us have noticed over the time of being on Instagram that a change will come in and everything will drop off, and if you engage with the new exciting thing that your business absolutely needs, then you do well. So I kind of think that for a long time, I mean, I remember this was kind of probably about 4 years ago, I suddenly had a massive like penny drop moment where I realized you couldn't search for Instagram content on Google. And I thought, that's mad. Like, I'm spending all this time writing these captions and they never come up in a Google search. And if I've got a customer and they're looking for something, they're not going to do a search on Instagram. They're going to do a search on Google. So, you know, I had that realization, but Instagram was doing really well anyway. So I kind of thought, well, yeah, I know that, but actually this is working. So despite having had this amazing, like
epiphany,
I
didn't do anything about it.
Yes, but then I think lots of people were the same. Whereas last year, do you remember that day when Instagram disappeared and everyone went, "Oh shit"? That happened, and I thought, right, I remembered this 4 years ago when I didn't do anything. I need to start thinking about this again. I need to start looking at ways of not necessarily not using Instagram, but how I engage with it differently in terms of creating content. And I think whereas before I'd always kind of like imagined Instagram being the thing that kind of pushed out what I was doing into other platforms, I don't want that to be the case anymore. That has to come from me and my website. And so I can still be making content
on your website
pushed out from me rather than pulled in from Instagram. And I know it's probably a subtle thing, but the difference with that is that I'm kind of controlling what I'm doing rather than it
controlling you.
Yeah.
And I think Liz, do you feel the same? Like there is like an out of controlness. I watched is it Chocolate Smiths, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. Anyway, I've spoken to her and she did an amazing reel, but she's doing the dancing reel, which I'm not going to be able to do. But she was literally having a rant at Instagram doing this reel. I'm going to share it with you, hopefully. Holes in the office, if we find that. And she was literally basically saying, I know no one's going to see this, everybody. And she's throwing eggs in the air, but I am angry because I'm now dancing for you and you're still not showing my content, right? And it's like, oh my God, what is going on with the world? We're business owners. We like to have fun. But my gosh, and you know, she's saying, I need to sell chocolate eggs. That's what I do. How do you feel, Liz?
I think it depends on the week or the day or what I've happened to post or share. I think the climate on Instagram is changing. Obviously, they're trying to make it a bit more like TikTok, but at the same time, I think I'm possibly being a bit too hopeful here. But I know that when the lives came in, you know, when they first came onto Instagram as a platform, it was suddenly everybody was doing lives and it was all about lives and it was all only going to be about lives from now on. And now nobody really, you know, is bringing that on their own grid as much as they used to. So, and as well, the amount of reels that Instagram is, you know, suggesting we do, I just think that is gonna, you know, overwhelm the platform and overwhelm a lot of people who are on here. I mean, as I scroll, there's now so much content. I find it a little bit off-putting, and I don't think that's going to last. I don't think as content creators that people can sustain that. Maybe there will be a few who, you know, who will be able to, but I don't think myself, as a small business, I'm not going to be able to sustain that. So I think it's kind of, I'm just trying to adjust a little bit, but not completely change what I do. I mean, I think I'm just trying to broaden what I offer in terms of the platforms that I'm showing up on, but still using Instagram, I think, as a starting point for that. I feel like Instagram is kind of my creative home. It's the first platform that I arrived on as a business. And I felt that at the time when I did, pictures, you know, like you're saying, Holly, pictures really suit me, what I produce, and I think my brand. I feel it's best to showcase what I do. But you know, I am now trying to integrate video a little bit more, but in the way that I would do my photos. I'm not about to start, though I do like to dance, I do, but I'm not about to start dancing or doing all the pointing and everything. I think I'm just trying to show up in reels and on TikTok in the way that I started off on Instagram.
It's a great, and thank you for saying that. Samantha, what do you feel? Because I mean, for me, it's you know, this is what caused slightly the thing in my office, you know, this week, which was basically, you know, and I said it in the week, but for those who haven't heard, you know, I did a post. Normally it would have 2,000 likes and it had 200. And then I asked my office, and basically only 1 out of the 20 people had been fed it. And because we're not doing the dancing, and by the way, reels can be great, but it is a content overload. There is a reality to running, as you know, Samantha, you've got 2 businesses. There is a reality to the fact that we now wanted to use Instagram. It was great. And by the way, it's my creative home, and this is how I connect with my work family, you guys, right? But the point is that I don't have the time. And I also started to resent last week, it tipped for me. I started to say, you are dictating now how I run my business. You know, you're dictating whether I will be shown to my X amount of followers, because you're now holding me to ransom slightly. You're holding me to think, and it really didn't feel great. Have you encountered that, Samantha, at all?
It's not so integral. I mean, we've got bricks and mortar businesses, so we use it as a sort of part of our marketing campaign. We could probably use it a lot better. I feel like we haven't been so consistent. I was thinking about wellness brands like Katie Brindle, you know, who started the daily live and Instagram that a lot of us watched. And I think we could have reached a bigger audience, like globally, even if we had done something like that. I sort of get into something. And I suppose for us as a small business, we haven't got like a professional expert advising us on, for example, the algorithm thing I didn't even really know about, which is should look into that. Someone put on the feed just now that Twitter is searchable by Google. And I completely have abandoned Twitter over the last few years. So maybe that's something I might get back onto.
Yeah.
Do you use Twitter?
Twitter's not my cup of tea, actually. And you know, just because I feel wrongly or rightly, actually, you know, I'm quite a female brand, and I don't know whether it is quite a female brand, Twitter, just generally. I feel like that's where, if I was doing a talk or I went to Number 10 or whatever, that's where I would use Twitter. Yeah. And then I would use, you know, but Instagram is the creative community. And I think, you know, and then there's Facebook, you know, we have the Facebook community, which is fantastic. So I think that there's different things. And also the whole point is you can't do them all, right? So you start the whole thing and it doesn't work, then you abandon it, then you come back to it. And it's almost like sometimes I think you've just got to pick where you are and just and keep concentrating on that. I'm just wondering, what are you guys refocusing on? So in lockdown, we brought in, I don't know about you, Samantha, let's start with you. Were there things that you brought in for lockdown or this period of time, these 2 years, that are working for you and you're going to keep? And is there anything that you brought on that you're just going to abandon because you're like, thank God that's over, or I just do not want to continue this? Because I think a lot of us, didn't we pivoted, we did what was required, but is it necessarily completely us?
We brought on things that I think we're going to keep. So for example, the restaurant and hotel we've launched as a members club because of this. I think it's at 60 to 80% of people now work from home or hybrid, but you don't necessarily want to work at home. I never get any work done when I'm actually at home. So creating this beautiful space by the river. So we opened, for example, on the 8th of March last year, or was it, you know, just when you could go to workspaces. And that's what we're seeing, like a creative community hub for people to come and work in. So we're definitely going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
For Bhuti, like all fitness businesses, we went online, and again, that's not something I think that's going to stop. So people love to be able to do a class online, and yeah, anything that we were brought in. No, I mean, I was trying to do some Instagram live. I was trying to be a bit, but that was I couldn't get up to do it at 8 a.m. every day. I mean, you've really got that consistency on Instagram, and also you just feel like everybody else is doing it. That's the thing I think you mentioned earlier. It's just saturated. And then if you're a bit late to the party, you feel like you're just copying somebody else, and there's everybody else is doing it already better.
I think
So it's
I love that you're keeping some things, but I do think, and a lot of before coming to you, Liz, a lot of people are saying, you know, it's actually, and by the way, I say this in the right way. I don't say this in the sort of like we should all be doing the different things on Instagram to do the right thing. But sometimes it's a bit mortifying as well what you see, right? Because you actually see people who definitely don't want to be doing reels. You know, you see people, but you know, and I say that in the best will of the world, but because actually that's not what they were designed to do, you know. And I actually think that we are being forced into, someone else said here, you know, unless there are dark days and you share your dark days, you know, you put that out there, you know, that gets far more engagement than if you have a brighter day and saying, hey, everything's well, great, you know, we're gonna have a great day today. It's like, oh no, I don't want to hear that. I've got some comments before I come to you, Liz, otherwise they just get blocked up. Ellis Button Box, I really don't want to dance on Instagram. I enjoy dancing, but I save that for the kitchen. Carter and Olive, I prefer pictures too. My reels are all business related, showcasing what I do. So exactly, you can, that's what I want to say. I'm bashing reels. I know it's more than dancing. But if you can use it in the right way, then that's fine. I think that's what you were meaning, Liz, as well before. Let's do what we are, do what's right for us and integral to our brand and maintaining our brand. Social Pip, Twitter is making massive changes now. There's community and spaces. It's on the up. Great to know. Freshwater one, reels are just about dancing. You can be much more creative with it. Okay, you can be much more creative than that. Paper and Word, gosh, it's so good to hear everyone is feeling this. I felt like I was going crazy, wanting a huge refresh on my business. Sparkles Eco Shop, it's so lovely to be able to connect like this. I was tempted to throw in the towel, but now but I know I'll regret it. It's a challenge, but we've got to do this. Slugs and snails, yes, it's knowing you aren't failing, seeing that it's a blip and everyone sometimes gets stuck in, taking that and then trying to adjust. And then Ellis Button Box, this is so refreshing to listen to. As a one-woman band business, it's easy to feel quite alone, but this makes me feel part of a team. And wouldn't you love one? I am changing my website to make it the best I can and have my own space. So Liz, lockdown, what you did, what you didn't do, what you're keeping, and are you doing the same as what Emma was talking about, like almost owning some more of your own space?
Just before I get into it, I have to apologise for the work that's going on outside. And
oh, we could not hear it.
You can't hear it.
Oh, really? It's quite loud here. So just if at any time it does get louder, let me know and I'll exit the conversation, because it does get it's profoundly like noise cancelling. So let's yeah, I mean, I think right at the start of lockdown, one of the things that I did was trying to do more bespoke items, which I think initially went well. And then obviously as the sales kind of picked up throughout the year, I think I was a little too overwhelmed to continue doing that. So that's something that I'm now looking to return to, now that I have a bit more of the, you know, time to kind of play with ideas. And I think in terms of reinvigorating how I feel in my business, because I have felt really depleted towards the end of last year and the start of this year, I think bringing back that playfulness and that experimentation, that what led me to the joy that I find in it and what I thrive on, I think that's something that I'm really going to try and return to now, definitely in the next 6 months of my business. And I am going to be offering more bespoke items. I'm also looking to step into areas of discomfort for myself and go into wholesale, which is something that I never really had on my agenda up until now. But I think it's something that for me, I always felt quite stagnated about, because I didn't know how I wanted to do wholesale and where my place necessarily was. And since then, there's been a few platforms that have opened, like Fair, that are really brilliant at wholesale. And so that really bridges the gap for me. And now I'm actually getting quite excited about offering that. And hopefully that will take my, you know, elevate what I'm offering right now and make me you know, make me feel like I'm growing, even though it's possibly just evening out a bit in sales.
Yeah.
But I am genuinely excited.
It's also igniting you. Like even me coming back onto SME SOS, right? That was 24 hours. I went to the team, ditched absolutely everything, every single meeting out the window. We've got to plan 2.5 weeks of guests. What are the topics? How are we going to do this? We've got a number of other things going on. Even doing this for me, it has invigorated myself, the team, because it's back to that space of being entrepreneurial, being the boss, being that person that can ignite things. And I think sometimes, I was saying at the beginning, I was almost falling backwards, almost allowing things to happen rather than taking charge. And all it takes, doesn't it, is one thing happens like this, and I'm feeling quite empowered about other things now. It's like a knock-on effect that you can have. Emma, you're nodding. Feeling, what are the things you're keeping and not keeping, and is there an attitudinal thing that's going on as well?
I think it is more like, you know, obviously you were saying last week, earlier in the week, I don't know when it was now, about people feeling like they're ready to pack it in, and you know, I think we all do that. But I think for me, when I was saying earlier, you know, I was feeling like I was really out of love with my business. I wasn't out of love with my business. I wasn't out of love with what I do, but I was out of love with where I'd got to, and that had happened because I wasn't.
There's a
really
difference, isn't there?
Yeah,
that's a really good point to mention. You're not out in love with actually the vehicle and the thing you've created. You've just maybe turned a wrong path with it.
So it was really I think sometimes it's just kind of looking in and asking like those hard questions. Why aren't I liking it at the moment? What is it? Is it because it's hard, or is it because I'm not quite doing what I was planning to do at this point? And that was where I was at. So it was just about kind of acknowledging that, yeah, it's okay, you know, anywhere you work, you have those days. But why am I feeling, I shouldn't be feeling that with my own business, because I've got the power to make it exactly what I want it to be. So I think it was really, you know, that's for me, just trying to make sure that it's injecting back all the time the things that you love about what you're doing, because then you've got that fire in you to go and find customers and go and make it work, haven't you? Which if you're feeling a bit kind of lukewarm about everything, then that's not there so much. So
and I agree, Emma. And another thing, like that was brought up yesterday, and now I'm slightly obsessed with, and I think we holly&co team, let's make a day, one of the sessions about this, is hustling and selling. Like actually the thing is about our small businesses is and again, I think it falls into the same category, that a lot of our muscles haven't been worked properly because of our reliance on social media. So, you know, when Not in the High Street started, there was no social media, but at all. There was email, and I used to go and steal, not that I should mention this, but anyway, I used to go and, like, people would do that accidental thing where they would actually, you know, say to and copy everyone, but what they meant to do was do BCC. Those were my glory days. I used to just copy all of them and put them into, you know, because guess what? Not in the High Street was going to go under any moment now. I was doing what was needed to do. I would go to places, talk to people, bore them senseless. I would, you know, sell them, sell ice to the Eskimos. That is what I would do. And I think that muscle, if I look back 17 years, has definitely depleted, because guess what? We can now come on here, we can have thousands of people look at us. What did we have to do? Take a nice picture, put a caption on. So I think that now when this social media is potentially kicking some of us out a bit and actually realigning us, it might be the best thing for our businesses, because we've got to go and work the other muscles. Like you said, Liz, got to look at wholesale. Samantha, you turned your hotel business into a members club. Obviously you can still stay there, but you've turned it. Emma, you're looking at other things. You were mentioning you were diversifying. Are you able to tell us what it is?
Well, no, I don't think I'm, like, not in terms of what I'm physically doing. I'm still doing the same stuff, but I think sorry, something just fell over then. I think in terms of just looking at the way I'm sort of sending it out to the world, and just kind of that's the thing.
Right, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You're not reliant
So-
on social, you're using other platforms. And I think this is the thing that I'm going to be obsessed with, I think, for the rest of this year, which is how does our small business community, how do entrepreneurs work a new muscle? And when you look out there, it hasn't changed much, right? Magazines, fairs, I don't know, social, like what else is there? You know, when social media has been so dominant, nothing else has grown, I felt. You know, there's no, you know, you don't suddenly have an incredible events company that's putting on things that are changing people's lives. Let me read this out. Hummingbird Home Body. We just have to keep focused. We're creative peeps. And I find myself stressing over social and not focusing on my own designs. Yes, you know, how many likes I have, oh shit, you know, how am I going to pay myself? You know, it's this weird conundrum we're in. Yard Designs, this is such a refreshing conversation. Paper and Word, yes Liz, I'm absolutely going back to fun. Wee Willie's UK, it feels like a really good time to enjoy being creative. It's downtime to think. Cipurium, yes, playfulness and joy. We often lose this because of the pressures of life. Until Dawn Shop, I've just published my shop on Fair. Nervous and excited at the same time. We're actually going to get Fair on SME SOS next week. They don't know that, but they're coming on. Natalie in HQ, you might want to just let them know I've just said that. So Sophia, we need to be proactive and not reactive. I mean, feeling inspired by all of this. Dotty Black Gifts, this is so true. We need to take back ownership. And hello, look at me now. It's so important to realize that we truly desire from our businesses, because it's easy to get consumed by other people's content. And then thus, doesn't it? It somehow rubs off on us. A question, Dottie Lee. Wholesale is something I really want to make a start with, but feel overwhelmed at how to start it or approach it with prices. Actually, Dottie Lee, we're not going to answer that right now. We're actually going to get Fair on next week, and they're going to answer the whole thing for us. Just wanted to finish with each one of you, how you're refocusing now. Like Samantha, when you look to this year, and can you believe we're going into April? I mean, it freaks me out. We're going to then go into the summer months, and we all know what people say about the summer months, and then it's going to be that Christmas. Is there something that you're looking at this year that's different to the last 2 years, or how you're going to maintain your strength this year to sort of, I hate the word pivot now, it's been used so much, but, you know, move dials?
Yeah, I wrote down the words engineering community, which sounds a bit, what's the word? I don't know what it sounds, but anyway, so with Bhuti, for example, we're looking at programs and offerings that we get people to work out together, to go on a journey together. So obviously we have social media groups and things, but I think, but we've missed so much face-to-face connection. So we're starting, for example, a 12-week program at Bhuti where people sign up on the same day. They have a weekly Zoom call. Love Zoom. I mean, Zoom is one of the best things for me that came out of lockdown. I know people don't like it, but it does mean you can go and have loads of meetings in your pajamas at home. Love that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And on a personal level, I don't know if that's anything that you meant as well, but is taking myself for granted, which I have done, leaving myself last in the heap of list of things to do, and being more aware than ever that if I don't look after myself, there is no anything else. I've got kids, family, business. So trying to make things work for me, not to fit around everyone else's schedules or work patterns, being a lot more tuned in and aware of what I need to do to keep myself well. Because I think, you know, we've seen the statistics of what's happened in the last 2 years with everyone's mental health, physical health. Obviously, I am in a health business, so that's very interesting to me. But on a personal level, I felt a massive dip and be overcome with stress and so much change. And you said, you know, we don't want to hear about masks and that, you know, it's been a traumatic time. So, being aware of, I know it's a trite term,
No.
but self-care
I think
is that number one
it should be
thing.
said every single time, because ultimately this is what's happened. We have worked harder in the last 2 years than ever before, and suddenly we are all sort of being thrown out on the other side, potentially, that sort of, you know, and then it's hard. So we're not even, we're not even coming to the land of the sun. We're just basically coming out of this time and almost having to forget what we've just gone through. That's the past. Don't talk about it, don't mention it, move on. And yet it's affected everything. So I think it's such an important thing. Liz, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly what you're both saying there. I think I need to give myself more of a quality processing time, you know, because I've found that coming into the start of this year, I was beginning to be more reactionary to the slower sales and, you know, to globally what's happening in the world, rather than being responsive. And I think being responsive is something that I've always kind of felt I thrived within with the community feedback that I would get on Instagram and Kickstarter, which is where I launch an awful lot of my products. You know, listening to my audience, asking lots of questions within the feelings and all the things that we're navigating, and trying to come up with products that people could relate to. And I think I kind of ceased that in this kind of panicked state that I'd got myself in right at the start of the year. So I think taking this bit of time off, it's kind of just made me realize that when I get in that mindset, I just need to stop and kind of, you know, all the demands of Instagram and, as I say, everything that's going on outside as well. I need to just kind of take a breath and kind of go, how do I fit, or what I'm doing, how will it fit into this? Will it even fit into this? Do I have to do this? You know, just because we're being told that now that if we want to stay on Instagram, we have to, you know, show up in a certain way. Do we actually have to, you know, or if we are going to make it work for me and what I do, rather than trying to fit somebody, you know, their vision of dancing and twirling around.
And that's what I'm obsessed with right now. You know, just when I realized I was being told what we should be doing, what the team, when we look at our to-do list, they were basically dictating a huge proportion of that to-do list. Is that what we're even interested in?
It's a huge threat to our individualism, which I think is at the core of our creativity. And so I think when you're told you have to do something in a certain way to kind of showcase your personality or your business, we kind of all go, but that's not me.
You know,
how can I do that? That's not me.
It was fine when they gave us Instagram, right? Because then that was just a creative license. It was just a platform. You could do what you wanted. And it was great when they gave us different methods of doing it. But it's not when it says do this, but not that. Because if you do, and by the way, if you do only one thing, we're going to actually make sure no one sees that. And it's why on Monday, I'm just pinning them down. But fingers crossed, I've got Jack Constantine, who's Mark Constantine's son, who is the head of digital for Lush, and he's coming on. Lush have pulled out of all social media completely, cold turkey, the whole lot. Not one thing has been, you know, not anything, and they are thriving. So how does that work? Now, they do have 900 shops, hello, so that doesn't, but, you know, but it's the principle that really ignites me. That makes me so excited when people go against the system and tell us what it's like on the other side. And again, I do think it's a hybrid of everything. But I think what we're experiencing is maybe all of us looking in the mirror going, whoops-a-daisy, we might have relied on one thing too much, and now we've got to do a bit of hard work. But of course, things are going to go down as we do that. Emma, what's your mindset in terms of when you look at this summer coming up that might be quiet because everyone's going to want to go away, right? This is going to be the first year of people looking after themselves and their families, but this might not be great for sales.
Well, I kind of think, I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, obviously you can't ignore the financial things. You can't ignore that the bills are coming in. However, I think it's such a great opportunity. Like over the last 2 years, I haven't had a chance to, you know, we haven't drawn breath almost. And you know, furthermore, the impact of that is not just mentally on yourself that you're just exhausted, but it just kind of has meant that maybe we've got to this position where you're just stuck in the, you can't see the woods for the trees, and you're doing things like Liz said, reactively. So, you know, the idea of having a period of time where you can go away and create things and really kind of like get enthused about what you're doing, that doesn't always come around. But I say that, but I think probably looking back more than 2 years ago, that always happened. And, you know, that was before these last 2 years, when we were just used to being busy all the time and working all the time, we did have more kind of peaks and troughs in our business.
We did.
And maybe kind of coming out of lockdown is just meaning that we're going back to that a bit more, and we're not used to it anymore. So I think that's such
a good point.
Yeah.
We've got used to a way of living.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe we had seasonality, didn't we?
Yeah.
And actually, slightly lockdown ruined seasonality for all of our industries. And so we were just on it every day. There was almost a season every day, and yet there wasn't. And we've just need to rewire. A few comments before you guys go. Solved and Love, I love your truth and honesty. It really helps to hear that we are struggling and have our doubts, but still believe in pursuing what we love. Miss Flitz, Baker's Vegan, we can't be experts in everything. I often forget I'm a baker, not a social media expert. It's such a freaking point, right? Just, my God. I mean, I'm not being funny. What a clever company. You know, that suddenly they converted 85% of the globe into doing something. You know, it's, you know, we Woolies UK, we will adapt. We are small businesses, and that makes us really flexible. Maggie and me, I left corporate because of the lack of creativity and joy. I definitely needed the reminder of why I do this. Thank you very much. Altruist living, you can't pour from an empty cup. Self-care is healthcare. I know you know that one, Samantha. Social on Toast, yes, make it work for you. And Froomy Gifts, exactly. We're independent for a reason. We don't want to work for big companies. And that's that point, you know, Samantha, while watching the SME SOS that we did on Wednesday, you know, what's the alternative, everyone? Yeah. You know, really, what is the alternative? We all need to make a living. So we're either going to make a living for ourselves. I don't think we quit this job and suddenly we start a new job in the creative small business or as a small business. We potentially would go back into corporate world, into something that's already designed. And I think that's the thing we've got to keep reminding ourselves. We would be so much more miserable than we might find ourselves on a daily basis here at the moment, but at least we have control of our destinies. And so I think this is such an important one. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. It's so great, and what a lovely start to the day. Thank you, Emma, Samantha, Liz, you're all superstars, and for coming on with such short notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Thanks, Emma. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Well, I love these sessions, and I know you guys do too. SME SOS, which is the life raft for small businesses. There's Samantha going. The life raft for small businesses when we're going through a hard time. As you can hear, I'm a bit obsessed with the whole social media, where it fits into our businesses. I'm working with some really great people in delving into this, because ultimately it's great to highlight an issue, but we need to start to think of what those solutions are. Monday at 10 a.m, as I said, I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, on with Jack Constantine, Chief Digital Officer of Lush, where they've come off social media. That's the only thing I'm worried about, is that they're so off that they're not going to join. But let's just wait to see. And also, how we all are feeling, and that the week is going to basically, well, we're going to put a menu out on Sunday, I think it is, with all the things and areas that we're going to be tackling, from emails to SEO. You know, as Emma said, think how many people search on Google. Are you spending as much time on your Google Analytics and on your SEO? So are you discoverable on Google as much much as you spend on Instagram and posting? Probably not. I know we don't, and that's another one for HQ to note. I know we don't, and we need to. So it is Friday. That's the SME SOS session finished. We started on Wednesday, and we are back full week next week and another full week the week after, 10 o'clock every single morning. Thank you all so much for contributing. All your comments will be saved, and remember, this gets saved on IGTV afterwards, so you can always catch up on everything that we've spoken about. Lots of love to you all.